All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Holt Outdoors Podcast. Very excited about today's episode. We have a great guest, and he's got a very important message to bring, and I think everybody can definitely take something out of this episode, and it's one that you're not going to want to miss. So, little of what's going on with us. I've been hunting shy quite a bit, and I'm hoping to have another episode coming out soon about him and his progress, and just been hunting with other dogs a little bit here and there, and I'm really excited about him and what we got coming up. So, without further ado, I've got Mr. Justin Estep with me today, and he's going to be talking about a special story, something that's going on in the community in his neck of the woods, and something we're hopefully going to get to reach the whole country. So, Justin, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Busy with life, working and everything like that, trying to hunt when I can, and trying to get some good guests on this podcast for people to listen to.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I understand how life is. It's very busy, especially for me right now.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it. Yeah, it's busy, but it's fun, and I'm enjoying the podcast and hunting and just living life to the fullest. So, well, tell me a little bit about yourself, Justin. Just kind of where'd you grow up, and where you living now, just a little bit about yourself.
All right, my name's Justin Estep, as he said. I grew up in Hurley, Virginia, which is in Buchanan County in the coal fields. Uh,
Okay.
Grew up there. I moved it to Marion, Virginia when I turned 24. I worked in the coal mines until I turned 23, and then I started up here at the prison. So I've been working in the prison since 2013.
Wow.
So yeah, I moved up here since then. So um, grew up in a whole lot different area there. It was a lot of mountains, Appalachian Mountains. Grew up there, and then came here, a lot more farmland.
Yeah.
A little busier here.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you do? What do you do for the prison?
I'm a corrections officer.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. I
Yeah.
have been for since 2013. Yep.
Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah, I got 7 more years to go before I can early retire.
Oh man, I know the feeling. I think I've got 11 years in.
Mhm.
So I got a ways to go myself. But
Yeah.
well, so how did I assume you got started kind of like anyone else as far as in the hounds? How'd you get started with hound hunting?
I got a great story for you. So when I was 3 or 4 years old, my grandpa, is my step granddad actually. He had some dogs out of Stylish Banjo,
Okay.
and which is Wick's dogs, and
Yeah.
he he would always in the summertime he would want people to go with him. He drank alcohol a lot, a
Okay.
lot, like a lot. So
Yeah.
what he would do normally through the summer is he would tie the dogs to the chain or chain them to the front of the truck, and they would just road hunt. Because where I grew up, there's a lot
Yeah.
of coal mine roads, so road hunting was a big thing then.
Yeah.
And there, so as a little kid, 3 or 4 years old, I'd ride with him, and then when the fall hit, he would put me in a backpack. He cut holes in a military backpack and would carry me through
Oh,
the woods. So,
wow.
so I started out very young, and when I got able to walk in the woods, he bought me a pup, a walker pup. It come out. I want to say it was Riverbend flag. It was a direct Riverbend flag dog. Hunted it as a kid.
Yeah.
That wasn't a really good dog. Didn't turn out very well. I didn't
Yeah.
know the difference. I loved it. So
A lot of people don't. A lot of people
no,
don't when they first start.
no. My dad, he went a lot with me. He started going quite a bit. We bought a red bone, wasn't very well. And when I hit about 13 years old, I said, I'm tired of walking to nothing. So I saved up some money. I went to work at a little gas station down the road, and I bought I want to say it's a Main Street Roy dog, maybe. It was an English dog. I
Okay.
hunted that English dog. She's a little female. I give $600 for her. She was amazing. Like, I treed so many coons with her. She was a
That's a
good little
good
dog.
deal then.
And then, you know, grew up around a lot of dog traders.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing there. I tried to steer clear away from them. Ended up, it ended up buying I got a little older and bought a cutter directly out of that Crow and Grant's cutter.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that started me on the walker journey big time, because
Yeah.
she was a hound. I mean, she'd blow through the country, lay up dog, first strike type of dog. I
Hmm.
mean, she was good, and that hooked me, hook, line, sinker. I've been doing it for since then. I ain't stopped. I
Yeah.
just, I've
What
kept going.
what was that dog's name?
Dixie was her name.
Dixie.
Cutter's Dixie. Yep.
I got you. Yeah, I got a dog out here named Dixie. She's probably nothing like the one you were just describing. She's been mostly a yard dog her whole life, but
Right.
nonetheless, she's a tree and walker. But yeah. So the Appalachian Mountains, huh? That had to be maybe some rough hunting. I'd have to guess.
Well, going to flat land and moving up here to farm country, I'm very grateful that I grew up where I did, because I really appreciate the flat land and the easy hunting.
Yeah, yeah,
Because there, when you treat a coon, like, I to give you one story, a real good friend of mine, Bradley McClanahan, and we went coon hunting one night, and I had a dog out, just a no name dog, very good
hmm
dog. I hunted. He was a good dog. I hunted him with the Dixie female. They worked on each other's strengths
hmm
and weaknesses. They kind of played out pretty good together. But anyway, they struck in tree, and they treed on top of a high wall, which is where the coal fields, they take a high wall miner and they cut the mountain down, and they
Huh.
just cut away, so it's nothing but rock and
Yeah.
straight up all the way to the top. There's no, you might have like a deer path to climb up,
Wow.
um because like I said, it's nothing but rock.
Yeah.
So we journeyed our way up there and walked up the rock, and coons up in a tree. We couldn't shoot the coon, because if the coon jumped out and it went over the high wall, our dogs would
Yeah.
too. But
Yep. Yep.
that's a good explanation of exactly what we hunted. Autumn olives, where they would reclaim what they would tear up, like tearing the land up. They
Yeah.
would respray in autumn olives. You'd fight autumn olives. Coons was getting them autumn olives and cross over and be gone in a heartbeat. So it's hard to train a dog exactly to be accurate, in that type of country.
Oh, I believe it 100%. I obviously don't have it as rough as you just explained where I'm at, but
Right.
I'm not in the flatland either. Kind of a little north of the real part of the Ozark Mountains here in Missouri, and a little south of the cropland flat type stuff. So I get a little bit of both, but
Right.
we don't have quite as many coons as I would say up in northern Missouri. But yeah, that rough hunting, man, it's hard to get pups started. It's just it's not easy, I'll say.
Right. And there was no national forest.
Okay, yeah,
None. So everything there was private owned land, but the coal companies had come in and bought the coal rights and created all these roads and places. So you pretty much, when you hunted every night, you was hunting on somebody else's property that they really just didn't even know they owned.
wow, that's
And
crazy.
yeah, like, even today I can get on my four wheeler at my mom and dad's, because they still live there, and I can
Yeah,
ride for hours and never get on the road, just consistently
gosh,
ride. So,
that's
which is
nuts.
nice. That's
Yeah,
nice. You
yeah,
get to enjoy ATVs without having to worry about all the rules and restrictions.
sure, sure. Well,
Mhm.
tell me a little more about this Dixie dog. So how did you say she was bred again?
She was, let's see, Crow and Grant's cutter dog on the
Uh,
top, and she was Night Heat Abby, I think, or Night Heat Dixie, one of the two on the bottom.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, what style of dog was she?
So when I first got her, she was around a year old. She had been messed with a little bit, and she was a really nice as far as strike dog
Hmm.
that you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
The only downfall to her at the time was when you would get to her, she wouldn't have a she'd have a coon, but she wouldn't stay on the tree. She'd come
Yeah.
off 40, 50 yards.
Yeah.
So I grew up when there wasn't no shocking systems. There wasn't none of that stuff. And, I grew up in cold country. A lot of us was too poor to afford that stuff, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I tried an old trick that my grandpa told me one night,
Mhm.
and it worked. I took her and tied her to the tree to where she couldn't come off of it at all. If
Yeah.
she did, it would choke her. And I
Uh-huh.
built a campfire and I stayed there all night long while she stayed on that tree.
Hmm. Now that's commitment right there.
That's commitment. Yep. And
There you,
I use a lot of those old methods today.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of truth to all that stuff. Well, there you go, right there. People who are listening or watching, there's a hot tip right there from Justin Estep, right there.
I got lots of those that you wouldn't even begin to imagine. When I
Yeah,
was growing up, now if a dog is trashy, it's okay as long as it falls off and trees the comb.
yeah,
When
yeah.
I was growing up, if a dog was trashy with my grandpa, now I've watched this happen. People
Mhm.
today, Peter would come knocking on his door if this was happening. But I've
Yeah,
seen his dog run a deer or hurt it, and he would know by the sound of that dog and the way it was running track that it was a deer.
yeah,
He would
yeah.
stand in that circle with a 12 gauge shotgun loaded with rock salt, and when that dog went by him, he would shoot that dog with rock salt.
Oh my gosh, I'd never heard that one either.
Yeah.
Wow,
I've also
man.
seen him take a this is like old time methods, man. I've seen him take a clothes hanger, put it on an electric fence with a buck gland, and drape it over the electric fence. And when the dog run to jump on the buck gland, it would electrocute it.
Hmm.
We never
Man.
had that. We never had stuff like that. We improvised.
Exactly. You did, yeah, you didn't have Google to tell you how to do this or that. You had to think it and figure it out for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy the dogs of the day, don't get me wrong, but the dogs
Yeah,
back
yeah.
then, they were a lot more people oriented. They paid more attention to their owners because they had to put that work in. They couldn't sit behind a Garmin, And I
Yes,
love my
yes.
Garmin. I wouldn't hunt without it now. But
Mhm.
those tricks of then still work today.
Yeah, yeah, and I have a Dogtra Pathfinder 2 system right now, and I'm still kind of feeling it out. I started with a Garmin Astro 320, I think,
Mhm.
but I'm still feeling it out. I'm like kind of a Garmin guy at heart, but I just I don't know. I might switch back. I don't know, but um, that's a good point. Like people just I think get too caught up in looking at that thing, and I'm guilty of it too.
Me
But
too.
them guys back in the day, they knew what the dog was doing just by the sound of its voice or whatever. They knew what it was doing without they had to know because they didn't have the Garmin. They're like, "Oh, he's running a deer or he's in a hole," or you know, they just knew by listening and hunting, and we definitely don't do enough of that today.
No, not anymore. Mm-mm.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a double-edged sword, I guess. You got that technology right there to help you find your dog whenever they get out of pocket or whatnot. But it also kind of makes you not listen as hard as maybe what you used to. I definitely had a few years there whenever I started hunting in high school where we didn't have a tracking system, and it was some long nights, some nights looking for a
Yes.
dog.
Yes. The old coat trick come in handy when I was a kid.
It did for me. It did for me once too. Actually, that dog I was talking about, Dixie, she got lost one night and laid the coat out there. Come back like 5 or 6 hours later, and she was laying on it. So
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing how those tricks, like even making things that worked back then, like if they have rickets, two raw eggs,
mm,
in their food. Just
yeah,
just and I've seen them come completely out of that. It's just those, and I've tried to keep memory. I've wrote them down because those things worked then. They're still the same animal today, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, for sure. Well, I have you had much experience in the competition hunts?
When I hit my about early 20s, I started going, and now I go quite often. Run a lot of hunts with Smith County Coon Hunters Club,
Uh-huh.
involved a lot in the youth programs that's going on lately. The
Yeah.
Virginia State Youth, the PKC and the UKC, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Well, that's good because I got a dog right now named Shy. He's a 2-year old. And kind of an interesting story with him, but he got a late start. He basically didn't get started until I got him at 2 years old. Um, but my goal, what I want to do, is eventually compete because I've been coon hunting since I was like a sophomore in high school, but I never competed, and I always wanted to, but I just, I always thought, well, I don't have the dog to do it. I don't know the rules, whatever, all those excuses. But now I've decided I want to get into it, and that's, I've got back into dogs, and that's my goal. So my question is, think? What do you think it takes to win, or not even to win, but just to have not only a good coon dog, but to also compete in hunts? You're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, but what do you think it takes in a dog to win?
Well, for me personally, um, if I build that connection with my dog, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
me
Like
too. Me too.
I'm one on one with this dog 100%. But if I take that dog out, and I'll give you an instance, I picked up a dog that was a year old and never hunted,
Mhm.
and just kind of like what you're saying, and I
Yep.
put the work into him. But night after night, he's got an issue where he don't want to recut.
Mm.
Night after night, he doesn't get better. Well, that I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
After about 6 months of trying, I'm done. So to
Yep.
me, a dog that is willing to learn, a dog that corrects its mistakes, like if you correct those mistakes and it learns from those mistakes, a dog that has a real strong relationship with you is going to listen to you. You
Yeah.
know, has a good handle. I'm big on handle.
Mhm.
I don't like going to a gator. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
Because I have had those and I don't deal well with those. But
Yeah.
to me, if I start out to compete, the first thing, just like a puppy, if I start out and I got a dog that started as a pup, I take a clock with me.
Mhm.
So I put the stationary on the dog.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'll put the 1 minute on the dog. I'll put all those times on that dog. For even if I'm not in a competition, I'm hunting, I'm pleasure hunting. Even though I enjoy the pleasure hunting, I want to compete with that dog.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take those things and I'm going to watch the improvements. I'm going to jot those improvements down. I'm going to see if it progressively gets better. If if I'm noticing that the things are still the same, it's
Mhm.
time to do something different. And if that different don't work, it's time to move it on down the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the sad part of coon hunting because my wife and my little boy, they love animals. So when I
Right.
have to part with them, because unfortunately, I'm just like anybody else. I want a good dog. And if I've got to cull a few to get there, I'm going
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. I understand that. I keep stopwatch on me at all times. Yeah. A lot of what you said, I try to do. And it's hard. It's hard to get one. I don't think any of them are perfect by any means, but it's hard to get one that really does everything good. Like, doesn't waste no time, has his coons when it's treed, and big mouth, the whole package. It's kind of hard. I mean,
A dog and a human are a lot alike.
yeah,
You're never going to find a perfect one.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
you got to find one that matches. You might like a dog that I do not like.
Hmm.
You might win with that dog that I can't win with. So
Yeah.
different strokes for different folks, as the old saying goes. But
Yep.
what I will say is I put a lot of old school methods, as we talked earlier, into my
Yeah.
dogs. I do tie them up as soon as we go to the tree. I tie them up. To me, that helps with going back. Like a lot of dogs, if you let them go when you pop that cone out, or even if you don't, they're stuck on that tree. I like to tie them back for the simple fact if I tie that dog back, he knows, hey, I'm done.
Yep.
I'm done. So when I go to recut him, and I do the minute walk off, PKC minute walk off, I do the minute
Yep.
recut him, and that's the kind of things that I expect. I don't like a dog to go in a hole, so I try to break them from that. I don't
Yeah.
like a dog, to do those to go back to a tree. I don't like one to hang around my feet. Another old school method that I done as a kid, and it works today, believe it or not, was I would take a coupler, put it on my old dog. If I couldn't get a pup to leave my feet, I'd couple it to the pup and turn them both loose.
Yeah.
Go or get drug. One of the two.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely, that definitely could work, you know?
It
Um,
it does. I mean, you got to do it a couple times, but they eventually learn to get that under your feet.
yeah, yeah. And that don't seem to be much of a problem nowadays with pups.
No,
They're bred so good that a lot of people are mad if they ain't treating their own coon by the time they're a year old, you know? Or
yeah,
I shouldn't say mad, but that's what they're expecting, you know?
yeah. They'll cull a pup. Where
Yeah.
I won't, I will not. And I know this sounds crazy to a lot of people, and a lot of people's going to listen and be like, "Nah, you can tell." Well, I got a pup right now in a training pen that I started messing with drags at 7 months old, and that was it.
Mhm.
At
Yeah.
9 months old, I put him on his first live coon and just let him see it, and I put him straight in a training pen. Jason Bullock in Kentucky. If you haven't heard that name, he has a great
Yeah, no.
pen.
Yeah, I
He's
haven't heard that name.
He's down in right around Somerset. J.R. Gray used him once for McGregor. He talked about him on a previous podcast. I heard about him
Okay.
on that podcast, and I
Yeah.
called him $200 a month. I was like, yeah, that's more down my alley. So
Yeah.
when I went down there and dropped him off, he sent me videos 7 days in a row. He's been treed on a coon and has only seen one cage coon. If they got
Mm.
it in them, sometimes maturity plays a big part in them letting that out. As a pup,
Yeah.
I turned him loose, and he was the craziest one pup I'd ever owned. Bark in the pen, finger painting in the pen. I couldn't handle it. So
Yeah.
I said, "This is my last ditch effort. Let's see what you got in you." When he
Yeah.
started sending, after 7 days there, I'm getting videos every
Yeah.
day, and I'm like, "Oh, all right, I can deal with a whole lot of crap from you if you make it." You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It is. It's like it can be one of the most frustrating, hardest things. I think it's probably one of the hardest things in hunting to do is take a pup, get them treeing their own coon, and getting the absolute utmost of the potential that they have out of them. It can be one of the hardest things to do in all of hunting.
Yeah, and appraise comes a big part into that. A lot more people are raising hounds in the house nowadays.
Yeah, that's true.
It is very true. I mean, if you think about it, praise to us is what we're seeking anymore. I mean, used to be you go to work and you receive your dollar and you go on home, you
Yeah.
know, and now it's more about pats on the back, which I still don't get along with that, but it does have some perks to it when it comes to the hound world because, like for me, for instance, if I go into a dog tree and I tie him back, I count my 8 minutes out on that tree. If I don't see that coon, I'm not touching you. I'm hooking
Yeah.
you, I'm walking away, and I'm recutting you. Because
Yep.
if you show that praise of, hey, buddy, even if it's, hey, buddy, you're not doing yourself or the dog any good.
Mhm. Yeah.
You're just not.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I got an opinion or a thought on something I want to get your take on.
Okay.
So as I about a year and a half ago, I bought a couple pups because I'm like, you know what, life has kind of slowed down for me. I'm not in college anymore. I'm set. I got a job, house, wife, and daughter. Like everything's kind of calmed down, right? And I bought a couple pups, and it was time to start hunting, and I wanted to my end goal is competition hunting. So, um, my during that time, it seemed like everything I listened to, everything I heard, saw, um, people kind of portray the dogs and the hunters as this mythical status that's hard to be reached, you know? And probably a lot of people are guilty of talking about the ones that are on the highest level, you know, your crashing outs who's won $400,000, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
for a guy like me, it was easy to feel like, man, I'm never gonna get there. To have anything good, I gotta hunt 7 days a week or 7 nights a week. I gotta, have a pup that's bred so good, and they got to be treeing their own coon at 8 9 months old, and staying off to themselves, and yeah. So it's so easy to get that thought kind of in your head,
Oh yeah,
and discourage yourself.
sure.
And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I can agree because in today's world and even growing up, money was hard to reach, and just
Hmm.
like everything else, money drives the sport.
Yes.
I mean, $1,000 entries, you got $35 entries. Look, I'm just as happy to go out and win a $35 hunt as I am $1,000 entry hunt. I can't
Yeah.
afford that $1,000 entry. I don't have nobody to back me and all that stuff. It does get discouraging when you are hunting yourself to death
Yeah.
and you are putting in for these hunts and you know that you just can't get off work or to attend or you can't go. But ultimately I started this with a different goal than competing. I
Hmm.
started this with a goal of I love to coon hunt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as much as I may get discouraged because I want to do those competition things and I want to be able to, at the end of the day it started with a little boy and a dog, and at the end of
Yeah.
the day it's going in with an old man and a dog. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So
I
so
do.
ultimately, I would love to be able to say, well, I can add this and say that you know, dogs are just we're not all born athletes, and neither are the dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to be happy with what you got at that point in time.
Yeah.
If you're happy with it and it's winning on a local level, it's just as good as going out and winning the big hunts if that is what you can afford to do.
Sure.
you
Sure.
know and ultimately I support hunting local clubs way more anyway because it gets more community involved. The local clubs have taken a big hit lately.
Yes.
Like my local club here, we're lucky, 6 7 dogs. We
Hmm.
cut our hunts back dramatically,
Yeah.
and it's just it's very hard. The same people are there, and I'm thankful for those same people. But the new
Right.
face coming in, like new kids. My little boy, 5 years old, he eats, sleeps, and breathes this stuff. Like I started him out in a backpack. That's how I started.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now, his room and he's got lights that I didn't have as a kid, and he's got his tracking systems that I would rather see that smile on that little boy's face than to win the biggest hunt that they make.
Right. Right.
And it does. I agree with you though. Like I want to go. Like my ideal dream eventually is to go compete at the world level. Like I'm not saying win the world. I like
Hmm.
to go be able to compete at that level.
Yeah. Sure.
Unfortunately, I have to work.
Hmm.
And getting off work sometimes, just like it's hard to do. So
Yeah.
and if you
And
get there and you lose, you're going to even have more of the air let out of you. But
right.
to me, it's like, all right, I'm going to be happy with where I'm at. If I got a dog I know can still smoke yours, I'll smoke you at home. You know,
Right. Right. And
it's just
I think to take away from what you said is, basically number one, be happy with what you're hunting. No
absolutely,
matter what, you got to enjoy to take it pleasure hunting before you'll ever put enough time into it to actually get it to where it can compete.
yeah,
Um, and I'm not, you know, I don't think either of us are saying anything bad towards the people that are hunting on the upper level.
no, no, no,
Um, it's just, it's just different. And I guess what I want to encourage people to just worry about you and being happy, and trust your instincts and your gut, and you know don't let everything you see on social media influence what you're going to do, because you can have success to a certain degree without killing yourself. Just I don't know. I don't know how to say that exactly, but that's just kind of something that I want to get people's opinion on, because I know I felt that way whenever I was buying pups.
right, yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to play the hand of cards you dealt. I mean,
Yep. Yep.
some of the, and I will say this, some of the best people you'll ever meet on the high end dogs compete at the high end level. They're just like you and I. They just have
Yes.
a little more means to take care of. Ashley Oxidine, one of the best men you'll ever meet. Like great dude. Every podcast that I've ever listened to, even talking to him on the phone, He's a
Hmm.
great individual, very Zach Reeves that owns Josie Wells.
Yeah.
Super good guy. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
There's,
just good to talk to. So, you know, you have that means to go do so. I don't. You're still a good person. I'm still a good person. At the end of the day, we're doing the same thing.
yep. Yep.
You know,
I couldn't agree with you more. No, that's, you make a lot of good points, and that's something I just like to touch on. But um,
a
yeah, I
pup will
mean,
make you want to quit.
yeah, absolutely, it will.
I mean, I've had probably more pups than I have because it's so much easier to afford a pup.
Yes. Yeah.
But the work that goes into it is worth triple of what you would just go out and buy one for.
Hmm.
My dad
Yeah.
used to say, if you go out and buy a pup, son, go out and buy you a new pair of boots because when that pup's done, your boots will be done. And
That's for sure.
he's right because
Yeah.
it starts out socializing. I've got a pup out in the yard right now out of pear trip. My little boy's out there right now while I'm doing this, playing with
Yeah.
that pup. Not training, just playing. Starts out
Hmm.
socializing, and then like I'm a little different. I like to introduce them to a live coon around 6 months old, and I only introduce them to three.
Yeah.
And up until this year, I'd never used a training pin, but I don't want
Hmm.
to burn that pup out. If they have it in them to do it, they're going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing there, like the money that is in the sport now, overall, I think it's a good thing. You know,
It's
it
drawing more people to it,
it's bringing, and all the people who are doing podcasts like this and covering the events, it's just bringing more recognition to the sport.
and
And
it's great. It's hard on the small man.
hmm, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to afford. But I can remember being a kid, and my dad would load up the truck on a Friday night. School was over. Load up the truck, and you'd go to a hunting spot, and they'd be 15 or 20 coon hunters parked.
Yeah.
And you'd have to move. And then as I got older, that diminished. That was
Yeah.
gone, and it just was what it was. Like they just didn't. You just didn't see as many. Well, the money started coming in. And when the money started being put up on the hunts and funding got a little big, then people started coming to it. And now at the level that it is, especially with pro sport, I
Hmm.
mean, you can go on a average Friday night, a couple hours down the road, and win $600, thousand,
Yeah.
2,000.
Yeah.
Of course, it's going to hike the prices.
Yep. Yep. For sure. And I think the registries kind of are seeing that, and they
Hmm.
obviously, I can't speak on this a whole lot because I've only been in a couple of casts, and I'm hoping to get there at some point. But it, it'd be good to see them continue to try to cater to the different levels of hunter. Your $100 entries here, your 500s here, 2500s, and then on up from there.
Hmm.
Because it is the clubs and this and that that need to continue to be relevant. You know what I mean? And the smaller guys.
Yeah. Well, it takes all kinds.
Yes.
That's that's just true. Me and you are going to hunt and love the sport, just like
Yes.
somebody who can enter a $200,000 or $2,000 entry.
Right.
I'm going to watch them do it. They're not going to watch me, but I'm going to watch them, and
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy it just the same as when I'm out here hunting. So
Same here.
it's really no different. I will say this though, piece of advice: if you're waiting to be ready, you'll never be ready.
Yeah.
I
I'm
mean,
just I'm waiting for my dog to get a little more consistent is all I'm waiting for. So,
yeah, a guy was talking to me, and he's my best friend. We hunt together. He he bought a dog out of Slow Talking Bull, bought a pup, raised him up,
uh-huh.
got him the tree in his own coons, and I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. He told me, he said, he was running to hunt for our club. He said, boy, he said, when this dog gets 2 years old, they say not to enter a dog till it's 2 years old. When it gets 2 years old, I said, if he ain't ready, he ain't gonna be ready. He said, well,
Yeah.
take him and hunt him. I said, all right. I took him and hunted him, and he done well. I mean, he's
Yeah.
only a little over a year old. He done well. He didn't win, but he did do
Mhm.
well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the accuracy that does play part in it. I
Yeah.
understand a little more accurate. I've had a lot of that. The dogs, especially, you know, Walkers, they're bad, especially when they're going through that maturity stage. They are bad to miss. I mean, and I'll be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you, I'll wear one slap out that misses. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's the way I was come into it. If you miss, I'm gonna, and I don't give them a chance to redeem themselves. That's what a lot of people does, and I don't agree with. If I bust your hind end, I'm putting you in the
Yeah.
truck and we're going home. You don't get to have no more fun.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah,
What
I've not
what
heard it explained to me like that.
what do you do with your kids? Do you know what I'm saying? Like when they're watching
Yeah.
their iPad and they're throwing a fit and you bust their hind end, do you let them watch it again?
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what I'm
That's
saying? Like a lot of
yeah.
people does that different, but if I'm training a young dog and
Mm-hmm.
he's inaccurate, I'm not going to put myself through the trouble. I'm going to go out. We're going to get a lesson tonight, and hopefully the
Mm-hmm.
next time we go, you'll tree and I'll turn you loose again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
That's something to think about for sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's the crazy part. There's all kinds of different ways to skin a cat, you
Yeah,
know?
me and you and everybody else is always going to do it different, but it works for
Yeah.
me and has
Yeah.
worked. You know,
That's all that matters.
yeah, back last spring, I had some people, bring their dogs to me and let me hunt for them because I just had that kind of time while I was raising pups, and
Mm.
I'd take them out and I say, look, this dog will tree coon when you get it back.
Mhm.
I'm not going to tell
Yeah.
you he'll beat the world, but when you get it back, it's going to tree a coon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I can't wait, and if the competition's ended, I'd still hunt, because I do enjoy it.
sure.
But there's a competitiveness in me that's been lacking, ever since getting out of high school, playing football or baseball or whatever. I played all three sports in high school, and it's like there's that competitiveness that's in there, and you want to get it back out, and it's like I'm too old to be playing basketball. Pick up basketball, I'll roll an ankle
Yeah,
or something like that. So,
yeah,
uh, just that thought is what's always made me want to do it. Is like, man, I love coon hunting, and I could go and compete, and put my
yeah.
dog up against other dogs. Man, that would be just fun, and I'm
Sure,
gonna get
it's a
there
show.
before too long. Just got to keep after it.
It's a show of your hard work. Everybody likes to. My stepson, he plays football for the United States Air Force. He
Oh,
he
really?
just yeah, he just left to go back out there a week ago. And him and I, like, he don't like to coon hunt, but we'll deer hunt and stuff like that together. And I say, man, as much as you like to compete, you might not ever like the drive of pleasure hunting, but to get
Mhm.
in a competition and see how it works, you might actually love it. And he's considering it now, but time
Yeah.
frame and him being, he's in Colorado Springs right now. The time frame of him being that far away, it's kind of hard for us to get together. And when he does, we
Yeah.
try to take advantage of the time. But
Sure.
I agree with you. I wrestled in high school, so the competitiveness was always there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I love to do it. And I love the people though, and it ain't always me. It ain't never me, matter of fact. But I love the people who never brag about their dog. They just show
Mm.
up and wear you out.
Yes, I've I've been telling it anytime my buddies at work ask me how Shy's doing, I'm just like, that old plug, he ain't doing nothing. He just,
Mhm.
that's just what I say. But
Yeah.
um, so real quick before we change gears,
Hmm.
I'm curious, what is the best dog that you've ever hunted with? It could be one you owned or one you've seen go, but I'm curious what the best one you've ever hunted with is.
Oh, I've hunted a long list of dogs. Um, most local dogs. Trying to think. Right now, probably he passed away a few months ago. I really liked Smirnoff's Debo. He was a local dog owned by Bobby Taylor. Trey Hewitt handled him. I really
Mhm.
liked that dog. Um, oh man, so I hunted. I probably was a teenager, maybe a little older than a teenager. Hunted with Sweat It. Watched him go. Real
Mhm.
nice dog. Um,
Yeah.
saw him go a couple times.
Kurt Ehring stuff, right?
Yeah, Kurt Aaron stuff right out of Sweat.
Yep.
I want to say that Tyler Richardson may have had something to do in there with Sweat It.
Yeah.
Um, maybe not. I really don't know the story behind that. I just know of Tyler.
Yeah.
Um, Seen there was a couple dogs growing up. I hunted with Hard Time Awesome with Randy Leonard. He won the World Hunt, a little while ago. He was pretty
Uh huh.
local to here.
Yeah.
He's an English dog.
Yeah.
Like that dog. Probably the best dog that I can say was a great dog that I ever seen go. His name was Tom. And he never had no big long drawn out name. He was half Walker and half Blue Tick.
Just Tom.
Just Tom.
I
He
like
didn't
that.
have no kennel name at the front and this big fancy. He was an old guy. An old guy owned him, and he was probably one of the best at the time. Probably my favorite memory of a great dog would have been a red bone that Dave Dotson owned. He was from where I grew up. And as a
Mhm.
kid, he had that and a dog and a blue tick, and he hunted them together. And we would go to Bath County, Virginia, and hunt in muzzleload season here in
Okay.
Virginia. And I can remember one hunting season very vividly that every night we treat our limit and was back. And those dogs had no quit in them. They had no nothing. I'm not a
Yeah.
red bone fan. I'm not even a blue tick fan. Have never
Yeah.
been. But those
Yeah.
dogs were good dogs.
Yeah.
And he would bring. I can remember this. As a kid, I thought it was so cool that the dog would carry the coon right back to the truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I've I've heard that as a tip before. Like a dog that's missed a few coons or maybe he's lacking confidence, let that sucker to carry that coon all the way back to the truck,
I've
kind of
heard that too.
kind of reintroduce the pride factor of it, like, yep, yep, I got him, and I'm carrying him back to the truck, showing him off, for
Hmm.
the dog. Um,
Yeah, yep. That
but
Rich Ferguson, that right down the road, he's got a dog. Danger is his name. I think he's out of Bone Collector. And he's a
hmm
super nice dog. He's getting a little older.
yeah,
Was I've hunted with some pretty good ones. A lot of local, like we talked about before. Time prohibits a lot of things. As a kid, I was able to travel a lot more. So the dogs of the past was, the ones I got to enjoy the most.
sure. Well, that's a good story. Sounds like you've hunted with a bunch of good ones, and yeah. But no, I appreciate all the tips there. I think somebody will find some use out of all that good stuff. But
Sure, yeah, I love sharing those old tips because they have faded.
yeah, yeah, no
They
doubt.
just they really have. I mean, and a lot of them can't be applied, that I have because we do have tracking systems. We do have different means, but the relationship that you can build doing those OT, it's more one on one. I mean,
Hmm.
I like one on one time with, referring back to my kid. I like one on one time with my children. If I'm
Yeah,
going to put that much effort, I got to do it with my dog too.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's uh let's shift gears and
Okay.
for kind of the main reason that we had you on today, and that's to talk about Miss Bella. Um,
Yeah.
and if if you will, I'll just kind of get out of the way, and I want you to just tell about her story and what's going on. I think a lot of people need to hear it, and hopefully, something good can come out of it. And yeah, I'll be quiet and I'll let you tell everything you want to tell about her.
Okay. Well, you can ask questions too.
Yeah,
So to
yeah.
tell you, her name is Mirabella Ward. She's from Bland County, Virginia. So my niece and her go to Bland Elementary School.
Mhm.
They in the fifth grade, and her and my niece were playing basketball in the gym. And my niece had threw the basketball and hit it struck Bella in the head. Well, her parents thought that she was concussed, so they took her to the emergency room. Well, they did a few scans and they found that Bella had a brain tumor.
Mm.
They were transferred to Wake Forest. While at Wake Forest, they scanned it. Of course, it was cancerous, and they diagnosed her with grade 4 midline glioma, which, if you know anything about it, that's one of the worst brain cancers out there.
Yeah.
Um, it was, as Bella would say, it's the shape of a light bulb. Uh,
Mm.
like as you can see on my shirt, as bright as Bella. We had those shirts made for
Uh-huh.
her. So. we went to. She then transferred, or was it Wake Forest? They did a few scans, few more scans. She had um, chemo. They were trying to get her set up for chemo, but the type of cancer that she has, chemo, the tumor would not respond to chemo.
Hmm. Yeah.
So the family elected, and of course, I tried to help encourage St. Jude's,
Yeah.
and they wanted a second opinion. So the first time that they applied for St. Jude's, they had a little wait. They wanted to get her in for a clinical study. So they waited, trying to get all the paperwork from the doctors and stuff sent in,
Uh-huh.
and they did make it down to St. Jude's on a whim. They called them and they traveled down. When she arrived at St. Jude's, they did a scan on her. They noticed that it had doubled in size at that point,
Mm.
so they opted to go ahead and do surgery and remove half of it.
Wow.
When they removed half of it, she went through the recovery portion, and they did a few more scans on her. Um,
And how long did that take those doctors to do that surgery?
so I think she was down there within 3 days. St. Jude's, 3 or 4 days. St. Jude's did the surgery.
Yeah. Okay.
And I want to say they were at La Conta Center, Surgery Center, and then recovery happened at St. Jude's.
Okay.
It's all in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Um, when they did the surgery, they took half of it out, and their plan was this chemo, radiation, shrink it, remove the rest.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that plan was to no avail because the tumor would not respond to chemo, so it disqualified her for the clinical study.
Yeah.
Upon another scan, they found recent update is it has moved into her spine.
Oh man.
Two spots on her spine. The family announced that a few days ago. Um,
Yeah.
I tried to keep in touch with their family while they're there. I talk to them about every day. I try to
Hmm.
FaceTime her when she's feeling good. The left side of her body is real weak.
Yeah.
Um, so so right now what they're doing is they're at St. Jude's. Her radiation starts July the 7th. They are still planning on doing radiation. However, the clinical study they cannot do. They're hoping that the radiation will take away the ones in her spine, will
Yeah.
also shrink the one in her brain, and maybe that they can remove the rest of that depending.
Yeah.
So, prayers are a big portion of that. Like,
Yes.
you know,
Absolutely.
it goes a long way right now because you or I can't do anything but promote what we're promoting, but we can pray.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
I agree with you on that. I had the conversation with Gary last week,
mhm.
and you know, he was definitely um touched by her and her outlook and her personality. And I don't know all the details of how he met her or heard about everything going on, but he was definitely inspired by her. And one of the things we said was pray. And I encourage everyone that's watching or listening to this to take a minute to do that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. The more of that we have, the better.
Yeah.
That's the main important thing here. My story dealt in this, of course, how I got involved in a lot of this was
Yeah.
my niece.
Hmm.
My sister-in-law reached out to me. I had done a benefit coon hunt. I had helped organize it with Jake Hines. Him and I had got together and organized one for a little boy, Matthew Abate. He had a mass in his lung,
Hmm.
and we organized it. Done a stud dog, pretty big stud dog auction.
Yeah.
Had a hunt, and it raised quite a bit of money for them. So very thankful. But she reached out to me and she said, we need to try to find them help. And I said, well, I'll help.
Hmm.
She said, really? I said, well, I still have the platform, so, and I'm not afraid to call people because you ain't going to do nothing and tell me no.
That's right. Yeah.
I told them, hey, it's going to take me a little while to get this off the ground. I started with a bunch of phone calls and about $100,
Yeah.
out of my pocket, and I bought one item, turned it into enough to buy two items, turned it in it, and started growing. Now, our stud dog auction that we have put on is enormous.
Yeah.
When I
And I,
counted it,
I
it,
want to
it
know a little bit. I want to know a little bit more about that. Go ahead with your thought, but after that, tell me kind of just for people that might be listening, how does it work? You know, how does,
all right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good thing to ask because I do get a lot of questions about that. So
Uh-huh.
when it started, we started the stud dog auction. We started with a handful of dogs, and of course, it's grown. It's up to 646 members with about 114 dogs. Uh,
Wow.
so how it works is this: when we started it, we accepted studs until July or till June the 30th, and we shut
Hmm.
it off. So
Yeah.
we aren't accepting studs anymore. I appreciate honestly, I do appreciate everybody that's donated their dogs.
Yeah.
When I post these dogs, they'll have a minimum, they'll have what's required, how long the breeding is good for, and location on the top. The
Wow.
increments are at $25 increments. So if the minimum is 100, you can bid 100, but you have to go up by 25 each time.
Okay.
All right. So that's pretty much how that will go. At July the 19th at 11:59 p.m. I will shut down all the comments on it. No more bidding. Whoever the highest bidder is, then that's the winner
Wow.
of that bid. So after that, of course, the payments will get collected. I'll notify the stud dog owner and tell them who won, and then you will have to contact and set up all the information that you need to know, and vice versa. So
Yeah.
it's a pretty good setup. It has worked well in the past. Just to give a little insight, I checked it 2 weeks ago and it was $11,000.
Wow. That's really something. I mean,
It's growed about 35 dogs since then too.
yeah. Yeah. And that's a lot of, you know, a lot of moving parts there for you and whoever to keep track of, and any little bit is going to help, you know.
It is. I've done raffles. I've run every light company has sent a light. Dog box company has sent, I've got dog boxes. Local feed stores, name brands have sent me dog food, dog and hunt supply. I've got a list of people who has sent stuff. That when the hunt happens, I'm going to try to do a live. Thank all these people because, I mean, they've been very very generous, in which I'm grateful for. To
Yeah.
say that I've not really had to do a whole lot to get a lot of things. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and we say busy. Look, man, I could hand you my phone and you wouldn't know where to turn. You
Right.
know, like I'm
Yeah.
on my phone 24/7. When I go to work, when I come out of my lunch break, I don't even eat. I do what I need to do on my phone. I go in, grab a snack, and go on to work. And
Yeah.
that's the truth because that time frame, I might miss you needing this, or I might miss that person asking that question. And if I don't answer them, then I've put it behind. And the branching out part of it, like today I announced car show. I got a car show going on.
Mhm.
Glitter and Gears benefit car show for Bella. I have a softball tournament going on. I have a
Yeah.
bass tournament going on. I'm organizing right now, trying to get together a motorcycle ride for Bella.
Yeah.
So many things. Like I'm reaching my goal in this is to reach out in every corner, in every angle. You might not like to coon hunt, but you might like to fish or play
Yeah.
ball.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If I can let you have a good time at your own pace, but also help a family in need,
Mhm.
that is my main goal here.
Yeah.
We talked about Gary and Bailey, and I got to shout them out because they're great people, man.
Yeah. They
Like
are.
honestly, when I started this, Bailey had had messaged me and asked me a few things about Bella, and her and Gary both had donated their dogs to the stud dog auction, and Bailey is very talented in creating stud dog ads.
Yes, she is. I've seen some of the stuff she's done, and yes. Yeah.
And she's very talented in creating stickers and all these little things that I may not have on hand.
Yeah.
So I reached out to her, hey, I need this, I need that. I can answer the phone calls, I can do all this, but I don't know how. I'm incapable of creating an ad. So
Yeah.
I've reached out to her. So when I did that live, that Gary mentioned on your podcast last time.
Hmm.
Um, that live was I drove to Bella's house. That was before, as when she come home from Wake Forest, was waiting on St. Jude's. I sat down and was talking to, um, doing the live, and I said, anybody that wants to join, drop a number. We'll FaceTime afterwards and vice versa. Well, Gary
Yeah.
and Bailey both called, and I got
Yeah.
to know Gary. Gary donated a pup. He
Yep.
raffled it off, donated the money to Bella's family. They're very much involved. He is broadcasting. He's trying to help. He's in Arkansas. I'm in Virginia. She's in Texas. I'm in
Yep.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Like I have reached so many people, like Nebraska, California. People that don't even have dogs. California. Wyoming, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida.
Yeah.
Conkeys, shout out to them. They have been great. They set up a raffle, and it raised quite a bit of money. They've also give me a lot of stuff it costs to help with this. You know,
Yeah.
Zach Conkey has been great to talk to. He'll answer all your questions for your personal use too. Like
Yes,
he'll test a lot of stuff, and they're great
I
with that.
do. Yeah.
So I'm the type of person though that when I'm involved in something like this, I want to meet face to face.
Yeah.
I want to talk to parents. I want to talk to the person that I'm working for. And that's
Yeah.
that's the way that I look at that.
Yeah.
And when I went and sat on the couch with her, look, man, there ain't a person around got as much faith as that little girl.
Yeah.
I've never met anybody. So to give some insight on that, she calls it her light bulb, and she said, with this cancer, I'm going to use my light bulb to shine light on everything. And I said, well, I'm going to help you. So I put her story out there to as many people as I could reach,
Yeah.
and to help shine the light of her faith. I told her, if you have, the Bible says, if you have faith, the grain of a mustard seed, you can move them out.
Yeah.
This girl's got it in bucket loads.
Yeah. That's it's an amazing trait and just I don't know. People don't that's a lot of faith. That takes a lot of faith to
Yeah, sure, man. If they diagnosed me with cancer today, there's no way that I could turn around and say, God's got a plan and I'm going to be okay.
hmm.
She
Yeah.
can do that. She can
Yeah.
say, oh, well, I like all these things and I'm going to be able to do all these things. She's seeing her future, even though God holds that future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it
I'm
wowed
a
me.
I'm a parent now, and I get I'm a little emotional sitting here listening to you tell about this. To be honest with you, and I can be an emotional guy, anyways. But yeah, I'm a parent now, and I can't imagine. I cannot imagine having to go through that, um, and to have the faith to say the things that she's saying and believe what she's believing is it's honestly a testament to God and yeah, I'm kind of speechless on it, to be honest with you. And
It'll almost humble you, Brendan. It will almost, I mean, it'll bring you down to a level, especially when you meet her, then your faith comes into action. Like
hmm.
when I met her, listening to those things, it would be easy to say, okay, all right. But it's to take it and say, you know what, little girl, I'm going to I'm going to have the faith and I'm going to help you.
Yeah,
And I'm going to pray about it, and I'm going to ask God, hey, you know, I'll be completely honest with you. I got on my knees right here, and I don't care to share this because it's true. And I said, if you will give her as much time as you possibly can, I will work as hard as I possibly can for her to enjoy what days she may have, whether it be 2 or 200.
yeah,
And
and I
God has placed people in my life to help me make this as big as it possibly can
mhm,
to let her enjoy. She wants to go to Disney World. I'm going
yeah,
to make that happen one way or the other.
yeah. I think it's really something special what you and everyone who's rallied around this whole thing, what you all have done. Um, I just hope that some of our listeners will, if nothing else, share this, share it, so people can hear about it. There's so many levels to how this can affect any one person. If you don't have faith or don't believe, something like this can change that for you or make you think twice about it.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I give nothing but you and everyone who's helping a lot of credit, and I give her a lot of credit for having the strength to have that outlook and faith, because I guarantee you most adults wouldn't be able to. Um,
No, no, no. You said you were emotional. You know, very much so. This is something to make you emotional.
yeah,
Like, let's put it this way. I have no hair. You know,
yeah,
right? Bella, that day we were talking, she knew that she may have to get her hair cut off.
yeah.
And I looked at her and I said, "Look, it ain't all it's cracked up to be." And she smiled real big and she said, "If you can pull it off, I can too." You know
uh,
what I'm saying? And a
yeah,
part of me was like, here, probably since I was in my 20s, I've been bald,
yeah,
and I've complained and I've griped about it, but I didn't have that choice, just like she didn't have that choice. She
yeah.
had to have her shaved off. I had mine. I'm living and doing fine.
Right,
She
right.
is not in the best of
She
health right now.
she sounds like a special girl that you know was placed on Earth for a specific reason. And yeah, that's really something.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've got a 5-year-old son that is me 110%, acts like me, talks like me, does every to have to fathom the thought of what her parents are even going through,
Yes,
sitting in a hotel room 9 to 10 hours from home, going through the motions of what may happen tomorrow.
yes,
I just could not imagine being it, but to look on the bright side of it. God, to me, God needs to be on every platform, whether it be yours, whether it be back in schools, no matter where it is.
yeah,
God needs. I've seen prayer do a whole lot more good than anything that I'm doing here.
yeah, yeah. I agree with you.
And like I see her, and I like some days I'll get on my phone and I'll just be ready to throw it in the corner. I'm tired of messing with it.
Hmm.
So I'll tell my wife I'm going to FaceTime Bella,
Yeah.
because that drives me to keep going, because they may be a day she don't feel like talking very much,
Hmm.
and I'll get a few words, or I'll get a little giggle or a smile.
Yeah.
And if I hurt my big toe, I whine about it.
Yeah.
She's laying up there right now doing everything she can to enjoy herself in the predicament that she's in, knowing that, hey, I have cancer. And she,
Hmm.
when the doctors told her I have cancer, she said, cancer ain't gonna win. I don't have that outlook if I stub my toe.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and
You are.
and I think we fail that as humans, to realize that the littlest thing isn't going to end our life.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I through all this I've gained a lot more faith. I personally can say that. I set up a little event. It was kind of short notice when she was getting ready to have her surgery, to meet me at the cross down here at a local church. And since it was short notice, I was the only one there. I didn't
Yeah.
get in my car and drive home. I'm 2.5 minutes from it. I didn't get in my car and drove. I took advantage of something that I had set up.
Yeah.
And, I think if you or I or whoever else that's listening to this would sit down and do a little bit more of, kneeling down, and a whole lot less of standing up, we'd get a lot further in life. Honestly, yeah, some of
Yes.
the strongest bones in your body is your knee bones.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
God makes a way for a lot of things. Now, I can't sit here and tell you, Brendan, that Bella's going to be healed. I don't have that answer. But
Right.
what I can tell you is that everybody that helps, everybody that prays, everybody that sends words of encouragement, all of those are not going in vain. They are being sent to her. They are to help her, and not for the healing process. It's to help her family by all means, but it's also to help her enjoy herself. I
Yeah.
told her one night, I said, if you're laying in that bed and you decide at 12 o'clock you want a Barbie doll, I'm going to make sure you can have that Barbie doll at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, you want you. I want that for my kids as well. I, you know,
Yes.
I, I'm sure you do, but
Yes, I do.
my kids are living healthy as of now. My
Right.
kids have the opportunity to go out and have whatever, whenever. She right now is not, we're all doing vacation in the summer.
Yeah.
She's in a hospital.
Right. Well, what what are some other ways that people can help and support? If after this, if you have links or anything like that that I can share in the description of this, send them to me, and we'll
Okay.
be happy to do that. But yeah, just maybe talk on the ways that people can help.
So the simplest way that you can help that would brighten her day up and make her smile
Hmm.
is she loves. Now I can tell you a whole lot about her just by doing this. Her favorite color is light pink and light blue. She loves
Yeah.
Highland cows. She loves chickens. She had asked for some chemo caps. That is something that she likes because she's having to wear them about every day.
Yeah.
And designs are generic, so she would like that kind of stuff. So I've
Yeah.
tried to give, um, she does have an Xbox there, so she is
Hmm.
playing games and doing that kind of stuff. She likes those kinds of things. I've just asked everybody from every state to send her a personalized letter because she loves hearing from people from far away. It excites her, as
Yeah.
a kid. So that is one thing. I have the address. I will drop that to you, and you can put it in the comments.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that you address everything that you may send her package later or whatever to Mirabella Ward. Um, that
Okay.
if you address it to the parents, it will not go to her.
Okay.
That's just the St. Jude's thing. Donation wise, the family does have a GoFundMe that has been set up. It's almost reached its goal. I'm sure you could still donate even after it's over.
Hmm.
Um, I also, so to tell you how I do this, because I don't hide anything from anybody, I set
Hmm.
up a savings account at a credit union just right up the road. And
Okay.
for all these raffles and stuff and the stud dog auction that I've been doing, I use my Cash App, my Venmo. I withdraw that stuff and I take it straight up and put it in her bank account. I just made a deposit today.
Hmm.
Once I hit a certain amount, I deposit. I let the family know, and that they have access to the savings account while they're there. So
Okay.
that is a little way that we can kind of correlate to where I don't have to use my banking and try to communicate with their banking.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And it's set
understand
up
that.
specifically in Mirabella Ward's name. So that is the best way to do this, and
Okay.
not have a pocket full or a house full of money sitting
Yeah.
around. So
Yeah.
my Cash App, I don't care to tell this out. My Cash App is the money sign HKO Outdoors, capital H, capital K, capital O Outdoors. My Venmo is at Justin dash Estep dash 15. You can make donations that way. I just ask if you're making donations that you put a memo that that's what it's for, because with all these raffles going on, I can't
Yeah.
keep up with it if you don't put a memo. Also,
Yeah.
if you're in the hunting community, I have raffles going on. I have a Bright Eyes light still to run. I have the Pro XP. I still have it to run. I'm running an Evans dog box right now, a single hole dog box. I have a pair of Costa sunglasses. I'm looking around at it while I'm naming this off to you. I have a
Yeah.
guitar. Hopefully, is going to be signed by Steve Earle this weekend. Um,
Very cool. Yeah.
so
And
so
so to see the rifles, where do they need to go to see those?
You can see those on the Stud Dog auction for Mirabella Ward. That is the name of the auction. It is a group.
Okay.
Also, if you want to do the hunt, you can type in on Facebook benefit hunt for Mirabella Ward to give the location, the time, and everything. That time is going to have to be altered because it's a 7 o'clock, and with everything going on, we're going to have to open the doors a little bit earlier. So just stay tuned for that. I'm going to try to update that soon. But you can also go to my personal page. I post them there as well. Justin Estep. Um, I post a lot of the raffles. I started off there. I share it all over all the coon hunting apps or
Yeah.
groups there. I share it all over that. A lot of people have been on board. I have a fade to black and a blue tick mix pup that a guy has donated. I'm going to be posting that Friday. A really great. I think it's Blue Ghost, Bloodline Blue Tick. So
Yeah.
that cross, it's pretty good cross. So I'm hoping to
Right.
get it up and running very soon. Josie Wells pup, we had that in the works. Hopefully it works out. So that'll be something else to run.
Yeah.
Lots of things.
You got a lot. You got a lot that people can look at and potentially help on, and yeah,
Even if you don't win, your money's going to a great cause.
absolutely. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I will make sure that it gets shipped. I've done T-shirts. I did these T-shirts. That was kind of a limited time thing for the hunt. It just that started it, and then we went to the lights. I have um, what is it? I can't think right. Tall Timber Mark 1 that's on its way. The hunt is going to be huge, so I ask everybody if you're willing to drive a little bit to participate in this hunt. I promise you that you're going to have all kinds of stuff that you don't have to pay to get shipping for.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like
That's great.
I'll have to give a little rundown on that. I have a copper headlight coming that we're going to sell chances on. I have a TT 25. I have a summer heat package, which is a dog and hunt supply Wyco cooler. It'll have Elite Nutrition, Strix Famous Tick Spray, and a Buddy Bowl. That will be the package.
Yeah.
You And then I'll have some auction items like a Dan's coat, a Dan's vest, a dark 30 vest. I have the Razor belt. That stuff
Yep.
is going to be there for auction. Lots of leads, lots of mystery boxes that I've tried to throw together, stopwatches, things like that.
Yeah.
And as it stands right now, I'm probably going to give a door bag or a door prize of dog food away to everybody that walks in. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
I'm overloaded, and I'm grateful, but I'm overloaded with dog food.
Yeah.
I've picked up over probably 115 bags of dog food in the last 2 days.
Wow. Well, I I guess wh- what's the what's the next step then for for her and her family and just what are we looking at now going forward for her?
So going forward, they're going to start radiation, like I said, July the 7th. They're
Mhm.
going to hopefully that will shrink the spots in her spine, and that will shrink this the way maybe they can remove the rest.
Yeah.
That's the hope there.
Okay.
She does have a come home date of August the 11th. That's in between her treatments. She'll have a bunch of treatments. She'll come home, and I'm assuming she'll follow up for scans to see if it's progressed or degressed,
Okay.
and they'll make a plan from there. As of now, everything is just in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. And the best thing people can do is pray, and I think what you said about the letters, I mean, that's great. Anybody can do that.
Oh,
The
it
fact
costs
that
you 98 cents.
Yeah, the fact that the little girl gets happy, gets excited seeing a letter come from Montana or something like that, that's anybody could do that. And um, I
Absolutely.
we're knocking on about an hour and 13 minutes. It's flown by for me.
It has. It has.
It's been a great conversation, and you know, I'll just kind of open it up to you for any final thoughts or anything else that you'd like to say before we close out of this.
The one thing I will say is I want everybody to know that if you send a letter, I will make sure that a picture, her dad does make sure that those pictures are taken, and I will communicate it on my end to you. I'll make sure that you see that your letter's been received. You can see that smile because that's worth every dollar being made. I want you to see it. I want you to see that you're touching somebody.
Yeah,
Um, that but most importantly, I want everybody that can and will to pray. Um, and take it if you got time, read your Bible. You
yeah,
know, build your faith that if you something happens to you or your family that you can be like Bella. As
Yeah.
bright as Bella, as my shirt says. That's the way we need to live our life.
Yeah.
Is with big faith. Pray for Bella. Pray for her family. Help support if you can. If you can't, send a letter. If you need to get any more information on this, I don't care if you know my number. By this point in my life, everybody has my cell phone number.
Yeah.
And I'll give it out right now. It's 276-639-5361. If I don't answer, I will call you back. Leave a voicemail, text, whatever you want to do. Tell me who you are, what you're texting about, because I get thousands a day. I need to know that. Um, but most importantly, if you feel the need that you want to pray, even if it's about yourself, call me any time of the day. Call me.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
If you've got somebody in your family sick, I'll help. I'll do everything. You can be 1,000 miles away. It doesn't matter. I won't. Me and my wife, I've tossed around the idea of creating a nonprofit, um, because the way that I feel about this and the passion that I have about this. 2 kids in a year, it's
Hmm.
not something that I should have to do, but I want
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think no kid should go through these things. But God does have a bigger plan than you or I. So
Yep.
we have talked about
Absolutely.
doing that to where kids out in the community that doesn't have the ability, or sick children that can benefit, we can provide them with opportunities to stay out of trouble by putting them in the woods. That's what kept me out of trouble.
Yes. Yep.
And I think it's this situation itself has changed me wholeheartedly in my outlook on life.
Yeah.
Because we take a lot. We always are living for the future and what we can get next instead of living for tomorrow when you're not promised it.
Absolutely. Those words are hitting me harder and harder every day leading up to talking to you and ever since talking to Gary. And yeah, you couldn't have said it any better. I mean, we're not promised tomorrow, and somewhere out there somebody is dealing with something worse than you are. And
Yes, sir.
um I think everybody ought to put all their faith in God and um be appreciative for what you got, and hold your kids tight, love them, and enjoy each and every day like it's going to be your last.
And you have to. I mean, if you blink, how old is how old is your kids?
My only daughter, up to this point, she's 14 months old.
You blink, and they'll be talking to you.
I know it.
You
I
know what
know
I'm saying? Like, I can remember my little boy mumbling, and now I can't shut him up.
it.
I wouldn't have it any other way. But the point of that is, life goes by so fast.
Yeah,
Why
it
would
does.
you want to foresee them being teenagers and what they're doing next when you need to enjoy the moment that you're in?
Yeah, yeah,
You
absolutely.
you know
And
I you're going to miss that. Hey, Daddy, pick me up.
mhm, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I every time my little boy says, "Will you carry me, Daddy?" I don't care if he's 200 pound. I'm gonna scoop him up.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna we'll try to include anything and everything that's relevant to links, your Cash App and Venmo, things like that. We'll try to include that in some way or another in this podcast, whether it's on the video YouTube version or whatnot. We'll try to include that on our end. That way people can see it on here and get a hold of you, and I'll be in touch with you after this for any more information as far as links and everything like that. But I just, man, I thank you for not only spreading the word of God, but um, giving probably a little kick in the butt to a lot of people that might have listened to this or seen it, that needed it, and just kind of, I don't know, just realizing how short life is, and how thankful we need to be for what we have, and just hearing the story of Bella has definitely weighed on me and made me think about rethink my faith and how my life is, and I'm just glad that I got to hear it, and I hope that we can help somehow. So I really appreciate it, Justin, and I'll be praying for her and her family and wishing nothing but the best.
And thank you very much for having me on here. Giving me this little opportunity to help promote the cause, because every little bit helps. Every ear that may hear what I say today, man, it may change their life, and I just hope so.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so too. And yeah, no problem. Maybe one of these days we can get together and do this again. And yeah, just like I said, I like you said, any little bit helps, and I'm glad to help. And hopefully something good will come out of this. So,
I hope so, and thank you.
yep, you're welcome. Again, Justin Estep here, and thank you for coming on. And we're gonna, I guess, sign off here, and we'll hopefully do this again soon, man. I really
All right.
appreciate you sharing her story.
Thank you. And when you hunt tonight, just remember this: hunting some hope for Bella. That's what I try to say to everybody. Just remember that.
I will. All right. Well, I thank you, man, and we'll talk to you later. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. See ya. Wow. Um, quite a conversation. I find myself a little bit speechless. Uh, Seems like a very special young girl. Going through a lot. Her family and her both, and I can't thank Justin enough for coming on and sharing that story. Please, if anybody out there can and wants to help, we will try to provide all that information in some way or another on this podcast, whether it's the video version or the audio version. Somehow we'll try to provide everyone with what they might need to help out. Um, Remember, everyone, if you are interested in helping, we're going to have links, and then also I want to highlight that there will be a link in the description if you want to text us directly with any comments, questions, anything like that. And just I don't know, hold your kids tight and don't take anything for granted. I'm really glad that we got to share this story, and I just hope that something good comes out of it for Bella. So um, remember to like and subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment, um, share it with your friends, and yeah, thanks for all the people who are listening and watching, and we'll see you on the next one.